I'm Ramona Schindelheim. I'm the editor-in-chief of Working Nation. We're a nonprofit news organization, and our sole purpose is really to shine a light on the future of work and how do we make sure everybody is equally represented in the new economy as it keeps changing. I'm very fortunate to have a great panel who I'll introduce you to shortly, but I just want to let you know what we're going to do. So we're going to be up here talking for about 25 minutes, and then we're going to turn it over to you to talk amongst yourselves. And there are people in the room who can help facilitate this conversation. We want you to come up with some of your own thoughts and ideas about making sure everybody is a part of the economy, what can be done, economic mobility, making sure people get hired and they're not left behind. After you guys talk for about 25 minutes, we're going to get back up here and we want to hear from you guys. We're going to have, again, the facilitators help, but get you to come up here and talk. Or not up here, excuse me. That would be like a mad rush to the stage. Out there to talk. And we're going to interact with you. We want to share our own observations on what you're saying and maybe some other ideas that might be helpful. So with that, again, I'm Ramona. And here to my left is Debbie Dyson. She's the CEO of 110. And Debbie, tell them a little bit about your group.
Yeah, so 110 is a startup. It's been in existence for about 4 years, and we're focused on disrupting the traditional way of hiring talent, and it's talent without a 4-year degree. So we have organizations that join us. We focus on the skills required for the job versus necessarily the degree. To date, we've hired about 130,000 or so talented individuals. But this is about helping, thank you. This is about helping talent that's just been unseen, unheard, and underrepresented, and we're really trying to really just sort of shake things up in the market.
And next to her is Rodney Balden with Morgan Stanley at Work, the executive director.
Thank you, Ramona. Yes, so in my work, my official title is Head of Industry Engagement and Learning, and what that means is I work within our workplace wealth offering, which sits our equity compensation administration, retirement benefits, so basically all the financial benefits that a company may offer. And I conduct thought leadership research to identify what are the current and evolving trends when it comes to workplace benefits, both from the standpoint of the employee and the employer, and then disaggregate that data to figure out what things are we missing so that employers can better address the well-being needs of their employees. And
finally, and not least, Chike Agu. Right now he's a senior advisor to the project on work at Harvard University, and he's the former chief innovation officer during the Biden administration. Chike,
Sure.
Say a little bit more.
Sure. Thank you for having me, and thank you all of you for being here. In my prior role in the Biden administration, and currently in my work at Harvard, I sit and I think about really a single question, which is how do we create the industries of the future and populate them with workers that look like America? Not just because it's the right thing, but also because it's the smart thing. Right now in America, there are more jobs open than there are people looking. In my home state of Maryland, where I am from, there are 2 jobs open for every 1 person looking. And that is true in many states across this country and in many industries across this country. And so no matter your values, no matter your politics, you have to go everywhere and hire everyone. And then you will still need to think about how you apply things like AI to get the most out of those people. So that's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about. And I think, honestly, why I'm so excited to be here at Hope Global is that this is the most important question we have before us. If we get it right, we ensure the next American century. If we don't, our kids aren't going to enjoy what we have.
So one thing I want to say as we start this all is technology has always changed the way we work, whether we think about it consciously or unconsciously. If you're in a job for a couple of years or a career, you probably had new technology has come in. But in the last 2 years, ChatGPT has made AI a very ubiquitous phrase. Everybody's talking about it. It's not going away. So the first thing I think it's important to talk about how is it being brought into our jobs? And maybe, Chike, you can start a little bit more, and then we'll work down the line.
The answer really is, the first thing to understand is that AI has been part of the economy for about the last 15 years. Just candidly, if you have submitted a resume to a job in the last 15 years, an AI-powered tool read your resume, picked out certain keywords, and was part of the decision about whether you got a first-round interview or not. That has been around for a while. What has changed is what we call generative AI, meaning an AI that can produce text, video, sound, which is a new thing. But it's important to know that this has been with us for a while and has already affected really important parts of our lives in the economy that we may or may not have been aware of. I think candidly, when I look at a lot of businesses and I look at how they're applying AI, it's uneven. I see kind of two poles. You have some businesses who have said, this stuff scares me. I don't know how I'm going to use it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it be. I'm going to put my head in the sand. Then there's the other pole, which is I'm going to put AI in everything. I'm going to replace all these people and I'm going to make gangs and tons of money because of it. Neither one of those poles is right. And I've seen versions of that across the economy. Where you really want to be, and the businesses who are really beginning to figure it out are the ones who have figured out, how do I strategically apply AI, not to replace people, but to enhance people? How do I use AI so that the people that work for me can put their brains on more important things? I was talking about this with Ramona earlier. Ramona is a longtime journalist. You should look her up. She's done amazing work. And I said to her, she's probably spent a lot of her career writing press releases. One can imagine her using AI today to write a similar press release so that she can use that same unit of time to go talk to a source, go make a relationship with someone like any of you who are in the building, something that an AI can't do. And that's how we have to think about the application of AI. How do I apply AI intelligently to free up my workers and make them 1, 2, 3x more productive so that my business thrives and the country thrives? You know, in shorthand, I always say we're going to need all the people and we're going to need all the AI to get to where we want to go economically. And I think that's what we need more of as businesses particularly think about using it in their daily lives.
You know, Rodney was telling me earlier that employees kind of like it, right? But they don't know what to do with it because their bosses aren't telling them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So to Chike's point, AI is already here. It's not the future, it is here. According to one survey from Adecco, 48% of employees say that they're already using AI as part of their work streams. Here in the US, another survey said that's about 33% of the workforce is currently using AI. But guess what? Only 16% say that they're comfortable using AI. So companies are saying, yes, we expect you to use AI. We're going to help you be more productive. And employees are seeing that productivity. Almost 50% of employees said that they've become more productive. Those using AI have become more productive and save about 1 hour a day.
Of course.
Using AI. So they do see the benefits. But at the same time, they're like, we need some more training. We're using it, but we don't know if we're using it right. And the way I'm using it, is that the way you, Mr. or Miss Employer, is it the way you're expecting me to use it?
Rodney, can I ask you a question?
Sure, go ahead.
How many workers are using AI, let me call it clandestinely, meaning either they've not been told that they are allowed to use it, or they have been told that they should not?
Yes. That's a great question because...
And this is inaudible. I did not plan this beforehand.
Yeah.
It just came in my head, so I'm throwing a hard one at him.
It's interesting because both surveys, when we look up Gallup and Adecco, when they asked employees, are you using AI at the workplace, they said yes. But neither survey asked, is it because your employer required you to do it? So we actually don't know if it was employer-driven or if it's on the employee. Now, that being said, there was a third survey, though, that did ask, is your employer expecting you to use AI? And about 50% of employees said yes. There has been an expectation that we will, not today, will start using AI as part of my workflow. But that same survey, to my earlier point, then asked, are you prepared? Yes. Are you ready? Are you trained? Overwhelmingly, employees said, no, I am not. So there is that disconnect between expectation and preparation.
You know, it's a skill, right? And so we're all learning new skills, which I wanted you to weigh in here, Debbie. The idea that this is a skill, we're trying to get employers to start looking at employees as talent and hire them on their skills. How do we integrate this idea into the skills first hiring?
Yeah, well, let me just give you a couple dimensions sitting in the seat that we are, because we're trying to find talent for companies. So the way that I see this happening is, first off, and I think we're all aware that employers are using AI to scan resumes much faster. Right? So how do I get talent into the door quicker? But there's a fear with that, because now we're introducing a different kind of bias. There's a bias that comes, and talent is actually getting smarter, because now you just start putting in keywords to say, well, if I put in this word or this word, perhaps I rise to the top. So there is a little bit in terms of just being careful on, to some degree, AI. Not to say that it has a disadvantage, but it can lead us down a different path. So that's the first. The second that I think is kind of interesting is, as we all sit up here and we use what I call buzzy words. So we'll say ChatGPT, we'll say machine learning, we say AI, we say robotics. And it's very clear that there's an educational opportunity on what exactly does all of that mean. And I do believe that there's an inherent fear, and I think was said earlier, around, okay, well, when you say that, are you actually replacing me with a, you know, like with a robot? Am I going to lose my job? And I think this now gets into the biggest piece of it, is behind every machine, behind every robot, somebody needs to program all of that. And I think where we have an opportunity is, as individuals that are looking to get into the workforce, is how do we identify the skills that are required to be a programmer to actually help these big Fortune 500 or other organizations? How do you help them program? And that's where I think talent has a massive opportunity on. There is job demand plentiful to become a programmer to help with that. And by the way, you do not need a 4-year degree in order to do that work. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is educate not only the employer, but we're educating the talent on, this is a good pathway for you to go without feeling the burden of perhaps, you know, going to college and having some financial burden that maybe you can't incur. So we're not saying don't get a degree, and we're not saying this is the better path. We're just saying this is opportunity that you can go either way, and you can still get same opportunity. It's just this path takes you this way and this path takes you that.
Can I make a point, and then Rodney, I just want to say that, because you're the one that said this to me earlier too, that disproportionately, perhaps, the people who are going to be most impacted are entry-level people and we'll use AI, but any technology. And Black communities tend to be also more impacted. Could you explain that a little bit on what you told me?
That's exactly what I was thinking about, Ramona, that so we did research with the Employee Benefit Research Institute, and we asked, you know, how concerned are you that AI is going to eliminate your job? Overall, across 1,500 employees that we surveyed, about a third were concerned. However, when you disaggregated that data across different demographics, the demographics that were most concerned, where it was like 40% and above, Blacks, people who made less than $35,000, and the so-called Zennials. Those are Gen Z and younger millennials.
Zennials?
Zennials, yes. So Zennials are, everybody defines Zennials slightly different, but in this survey, Zennials was any workers from age 21 to 34. So that Gen Z, young millennials, Zennials. So those demographics were the most concerned about AI potentially eliminating their jobs. Another thing is, when we look at the workforce, twice, according to Gallup, twice as many front office, of those, that 33% that's saying that we're using AI today, over twice as many office workers said that they are than frontline workers. And frontline workers are less convinced than office workers that AI is going to make their job better.
And employers have that opportunity, as you said, GK, and everybody up here, they have an opportunity to bring the people who are already working along, so you have a workforce already. It's a lot cheaper to have a workforce in place and then train them. But I guess I still always look at this and go, why aren't they? You know, I don't know if you have an answer, but why aren't employers really tapping into that?
There's a lot of reasons there. I think the biggest one is many employers themselves, and it's important to talk about this is not just about workers, it's also about how employers play in this space, are still trying to understand this technology themselves. We have to, I think it was actually yesterday, because we had Sarah Fryer from OpenAI here. It is the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT, yesterday. And I want to put it in perspective. ChatGPT reached a level of adoption that it took, in 8 weeks, that it took electricity 80 years. If you think about this, no technology has deployed that fast. And not one that has so much application to everything that we do. So to be candid, and when I talk about C-suites, they're still trying to figure it out. All of them still have task forces on what AI is going to look like within their organizations. So I think we have to say that. I think secondly, and I've seen this particularly in places where there is person identifiable data, places like healthcare, where they're like, can we even use this because of the sensitivity of what we do? I imagine in financial services, this also pops up. In education, this pops up. And then I think thirdly, folks are trying to figure out between those two poles, where do I want to be? Am I going to put AI in everything? And I can name you a number of horror stories of companies who tried to put AI in everything and it didn't work because it's not right built for everything. So I think number one, companies are still catching up. I think two, they're trying to figure out what the guardrails are, particularly without any policy from the state or federal government. And then lastly, it's where do I start? Where do I start? And I would say for any folks who are here in the room who run a business, I'll give you a couple tips really quickly. If you're going to apply AI, do it quickly, but don't do it everywhere. Start from tasks that don't require 99.9% accuracy. Right now, AI is not great at that. And the cost to go from 96% accuracy, for example, to 99.9 is actually exponential. You actually don't have the money for it, particularly if you're a small or medium-sized business. You want to start for something where being 95% accurate is okay. The last piece I'll say is if you are applying AI in a place where you already have workers, as you implement it, talk to the workers. Which sounds very basic, but it is very important. One, for the health just of your culture, but secondly, they have ideas. And ideally, the conversation you want to have with them is, what would you love to not do that the AI can do? So and then if I gave you this time back, what would you do with it?
You know, we have like 4 more minutes until we go to the next next part of the session. I want to turn to Debbie for one thing she said that I think it's important to think about as we sit and you guys talk amongst yourself. It's about not everybody has to go to college. There are plenty of in-demand jobs out there that pay good money, family-sustaining jobs, but it's a lack of awareness. I believe we had this conversation earlier today. A lack of awareness about the opportunities. So how do you bring together like the pieces? There's like local governments, there's educators, there's nonprofits and businesses. Talk a little bit about where you can find the opportunity, how you bring them together.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was sort of some of the premise behind 110. We call people that join 110 a coalition. So this is a coalition of employers. It's a coalition of talent developers and talent partners. So there are many organizations that are very committed to identifying, hey, if you want to be a cybersecurity individual, these are the skills that you actually need in order to do that job. And then they train specifically for that job. There are other partners that are actually then doing the other part of the equation, because some of the hesitancy that we've seen from employers is, yeah, that's great that Debbie has the technical skills, but I'm not sure if she can talk, walk, or write. So what about the soft skills? And so now you have developers that are helping with, Debbie's presentation skills, or how is she a good team builder, et cetera. So what's happening in the power is that we can, through AI, say, for these jobs, these are the skills, and these are the soft skills. And just like, I'm going to date myself here, is it Match.com or whatever the hell these dating things are now? Whatever that thing is, it's just like that. you're able to match specifically and precisely so that this hesitancy of, I'm not sure if so-and-so is the right fit, well, we've just proven to you she or he has these skills, and by the way, she or he has been trained. And so when you bring this whole ecosystem and this community and this coalition together, what employers are looking for is not so much prove it, but give me the stories and give me the impact so that I'm not, I don't call it fearful, but you can prove to me the success of what happens when you remove the degree as an element and you think about the skills. It's why it's called skills first, is because you think about the skills first before you think about everything else. Not every job doesn't require a degree, so it's think about the skills and then what else do you need? That way you're opening the door so much wider. I mean, you have 66% of Americans without a 4-year degree. Right. 72% are people of color. So let's just think about that a minute. So if you remove that barrier and say, look at the individual for what they bring to the table and not the 4-year whatever, your opportunity to find great talent, very hungry talent, increases significantly.
And I would add to that, the awareness around those jobs are not always, there's not an awareness because the local news, this is where I get crazy about my colleagues. The local news doesn't talk about jobs. It kind of, the people in this room have to speak in their communities, and nonprofits and even businesses need to do a better job. Unfortunately, there's not an awareness out there of where these jobs are, and I think that's a challenge that we need to talk about as well. So I am told that it's time for us to ask you to talk to each other. I believe they divided these up in like little pods so you can turn around and talk to the person behind you. Just maybe talk about what you're doing in this space or what your concerns are. In about 20, 25 minutes, we'll come back up here and then we're gonna ask you, somebody from your group to talk to one of these lovely people in the purple vests so they can help us get that information up here. Okay, thank you everybody for taking part in this. We walked around, heard some really, really interesting conversations going on. So I'm gonna start with you back there, Douglas. If you want to have someone share with us what your concerns or ideas are, and we can weigh in here.
Hey everybody, my name's Lynn, and my group is great. So we're a mix of Gen X, millennials, and
could you speak up a little bit, or?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. So we talked about basically what our familiarity was with AI today. Like, do you use it as casual? What are your concerns, just to your point? And the gentleman over there, he's wonderful. Is it Rodney?
Rodney.
Yes, Rodney.
So he came up with a really great point to talk about when you are doing research, when you are looking up information, it's important to validate the source. I used to study journalism, and that was what we used to do then. You had to make sure you cite the source, and it had to be credible, because it doesn't matter if you have the data if it's bad data. You're not going to come out with really good expectations of what your desired result is. Number two, challenge inappropriate information. Ask a second question. So this is speaking to when you have a concept, and correct me if I'm wrong, I forgot where she is. Right, thank you. So if you think that the information that you're being given is incorrect, and I think one of the folks here mentioned about doing a school project with their daughter, a book report, and they knew what the book report was about. And the daughter provided the information, and some of the characters weren't in that book. So make sure that you're making sure it's appropriate. Another one is, when asking ChatGPT to do a task, tell it to ask you questions for clarity. And I look at it in terms of, because I do presentations, not all the time, but sometimes. And you have to know your audience, and you have to kind of think the way you think they'll think, if you know who they are. So if they give you this broad construct of, well, it's this, and you really want to narrow it down so that it's relevant, make sure that you provide, hey, give me the clarifying questions to make this more pertinent to my audience. or to the task. Ask specific questions and keep asking. The brother over here was fantastic. Keep pushing it. It's not like you have to tell it what you need. It's not going to just magically jump into your head and say, here's what this is the magical answer. You have to tell it and keep asking if you're not getting the answer, and have patience. Where to use it? Again, the brother with the lovely hat over here. Indexing and SOPs are a great place to start, especially if it's something that's kind of an overwhelming, and let's just say it's not fun, creating SOPs. Well, here has done that, it sucks. So this is a great way to start that. And then finally, commercial uses. My lovely friend here, in construction and surveying. So there are drones that can be used to be able to do jobs that people did in less than half the time and half the cost. So that's what we came up with.
Yeah. You know, I want to thank you very much. I do want to seize on one of those things is I love the have it ask you questions.
Yes.
Because you're challenging it to challenge you.
Yeah.
Because another group over here was talking about education and how it might be used by kids, you know, to write papers. So what are you learning if you are not having it ask questions? So, yeah. I'm going to turn this way because I keep looking this way. And one of the groups over here, who wants to go? You want to go? Oh, and you're pointing at this gentleman.
He's like, what?
You got nominated.
All right. Well, there was a lot of very varied mix of excitement and concern around ChatGPT, machine learning, AI, and all the other different things. One of the things that came across was ChatGPT is ever changing. How do we learn how to use it in other AIs, right? Because not even just ChatGPT, but there's a new AI every other day that we're learning about, and how do you keep track? Another thing that was very interesting, it was very concerned about the environmental impact of ChatGPT. There was this young lady, she was explaining how she learned that every time there's a ChatGPT, there's a massive environmental impact that is not really discussed. There was another question about, is there a plan to make sure that this accelerated learning doesn't affect our young people, especially as they're in scholastic crises, right? So now they have this very easy way to do things. I think that question was further clarified, where it's, the gentleman said, GPS, we forgot how to travel, cell phone, we forgot the numbers we knew, ChatGPT, what are we going to actually lose? What is the exchange? There was another question on how will it impact the food/restaurant industry. Another brother, he's into entertainment, he was saying, listen, AI, music, and the metaverse, how are we gonna get it popping in the metaverse? It says one more, there was a lot of excited about the increased efficiency. People are paying to learn. We learned that there was a 18-week course or something where people are learning how to do prompts over at Kennesaw, and they were saying to certain disadvantaged communities, there should be scholarships. It might be a great way to level the playing field by offering, allowing proficiency in this emerging field. And I think that's what we got. Thank you.
Excellent.
Maybe, thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Chike, maybe I'm only going to seize on one point, and you and I talked about this. It's a journey. It's not a dead end. So the idea of when you were saying, how do you learn about AI, right? Mm-hmm. And then how do you keep up with it? So
we use the term lifelong learning a lot, but all of you are here because you're great at something. You're still great at it because you every day seek to update your expertise. There's none of you who's doing the thing you do exactly the way you did the first time you did it. This is the same. You are going to have to continually stay on top of it. And there are two ways this technology is different than others that have come before. Think about the internet, social media, or anything else. Number one, this is the first technology of this scale that has not come out of government research. Going back to the internet, going back to telephony, electricity, or anything else. The other is, I had someone who used to do sales of technology. Generally, when someone sells a technology, they know exactly what it does. And their goal is to convince you in a sale that it does that thing that it says. This is different, because even the people who made it can't totally tell you all the things it can do. And I'll use one example. It's in a great Wired article about the creation of Copilot in Microsoft. It's basically the embedded ChatGPT that's in Microsoft and Excel. So someone had a document, about a 2-page document, and they asked the Copilot, ChatGPT, summarize this document for me. It's 10 pages, make it 2 pages. And it made one product. And then they changed the prompt, the question it asked. It said, hey, as a friend, can you summarize this document for me? It is really, really important you get this right. Thank you so much. And it produced a different product. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why speaking to it in, frankly, a much nicer and polite way got you a different product, but it did. So the only way you're going to be able to get good at this is to continually, as was said over here, push it, test it, try things that have never been tried before, because even the people at Microsoft and OpenAI themselves can't tell you why it made that product. And so the only way that you're going to be able to push it and begin to master it is to truly continually engage with it. So this whole point around lifelong learning, that we need to basically make sure that we get the most in-demand skills, the most in-need people, many of whom come from communities that you all serve, is so critical. It should be at the top of the agenda for the national government, state governments, local governments, and frankly, all of you who are leaders in your communities.
You know, I noticed over in this corner, the gentleman in the white over there, you guys were talking about soft skills, and maybe kick off and tell us what you were talking about that over there and where you went from there.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, and I have to pay tribute to Debbie for bringing up soft skills. As a former soft skills instructor for our entire school system, I'm very aware of how it plays into the workforce and in today's academics. We found that soft skills should be considered to possibly be changed to core skills, because the syntax makes it seem less important than what it really is. And anyone who is a CEO or manager of a company right now can tell you that the problems they're having with their employees, especially the younger and entry level, are directly related to their inability to understand communication skills, protocol, procedure, organizational structure. I do a lot of...
Come on. Can we just say that anyone who's run a business, the skills are soft until someone doesn't have them, and then it gets really hard. And honestly, just to reinforce your point, I have met so many CEOs who have said, look, I'll train them on whatever. Just give me someone with the right skills, the right attitude, and I'll take care of the rest. And so I just want to double and triple down on your point, particularly in this time where these tools are going to become a bigger and bigger part. Humans have to become even better at the things that only human beings are good at.
Thank you very much. So not prioritizing the importance of these skills, and also just being honest, because I have the mic. We live in a society where culture is dominated by the hegemony, and the hegemony has said that being aware of soft skills is a sign of weakness. I just had someone to say in a conference around the corner that the person that was elected president that will be sworn in was because of his sense of power and how he shows power. So apparently we are a power-hungry culture that has applauded people not being polite, not showing manners, and having this dog-eat-dog attitude, and now it's come back to bite us. So that's why it's number one on our list. And as long as we still keep prioritizing individuals that represent that and that show that, and that's what they're going to continue to perpetuate, then we're going to continue to have this issue. But moving along.
He said, once he said, because I have the mic, I'm like, oh, shit.
So number two, for AI, we said that we wanted to make sure and we wanted to bring attention to the impact that it has on the non-tech industry. So we know that AI is going to have an immediate effect on technology, innovation, but what about people like hairstylists, babysitters, cooks, those people that are working in the service industry that are not directly technologically related to what they have to do? How is it going to impact them? Number three, we said that there should be a strategic knowledge-based approach to succession planning that addresses the exiting of the baby boomers, which directly relates back to our number one issue of soft skills. If we don't prioritize the importance of these baby boomers and senior level employees before they actually depart from the company, then we're not addressing the issues that will come once they're gone. Number 4 is that we said there needs to be an interdisciplinary intelligence taught, which encompasses, again, the number 1. That means emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, and the most important out of those to me is the PQ, which pretty much stands for common sense, practical intelligence. Not prioritizing these multiple levels of intelligence has led us to where we are today, having to make these lists and try to address these problems reactively as opposed to proactively. Number 5, inclusivity of rural communities. I came from Albany, Georgia this past 3 days, along with my executive director of Sawega Rising. We live in a rural community, and the problems that many of these sessions are addressing don't impact us directly, or they don't articulate our experiences directly. So making sure that you understand that these rural communities have been the foundation of this country and will continue to be. Whenever there are problems that exist, you have to turn to these rural communities to resolve them. Food comes from the rural communities, and that's the number 1 necessity of life. So we need to restructure the way that we look at the rural communities' importance and make sure that we are prioritizing them. I can say that as the community engagement specialist for Georgia AIM out of the Rice Center, we have a $120 million EDA-funded grant that allows us to bring technology and AI innovation to these rural communities with collaborations with Georgia Tech, UGA, and other stakeholders like Black Technologists, which their CEO, John, is here somewhere at the conference today. So we have to find ways to bring these resources to our people, and that's what I have done, and working with groups like Sawega Rising and other nonprofits. If we don't prioritize us and make our problems known, then we'll continue to get overlooked.
Wait, there's more.
And there's more.
Wait, what? How did he get 2?
I'm a former teacher, I got it. Number 7, number 6, environmental impact, and we changed it from accountability to counteraction. This is directly related to the big industry and the tech companies. We are welcoming AI and welcoming technology, but we're not turning a blind eye to the impact that it is having on our environment and ecosystem. So instead of asking you, what is your accountability, that leads it to say that we don't know if there's a problem. We know there's a problem, so instead of saying accountability, we're saying, what is your counteraction move? Show us what your plan of action is, because we know that there's going to be more energy requests, which is going to further damage our environment. So what are you doing to make sure that you remedy or mediate these problems? So that's what our concern is for number 6. Only 2 more and I'm done. Number 7, digital divide, and what we're talking about with this digital divide is how it impacts different communities and different groups. Ageism, genderism, sexism. How are we addressing the issues? Because if we don't address them now, 2 years into ChatGPT, and we still have some people that don't even know what it is. So what are we doing to make sure that as we continue to expand this AI, that this divide that is already existent doesn't widen? And our last concern is number 8, agri-tech and marginalized farmers. So I'm a farmer. I'm the new age of farming. I'm not the farmers that a lot of us think that we're going to see, which turns us away from agriculture. I'm not a sharecropper. I own my land. I make the money off of it. I don't have to pay dues to anyone else. Understanding the importance of land ownership, especially as Black and brown people, is ultimately important to you having a voice in this country and in this world. If you don't own anything, no one cares about what you say and think. Own some property and land, and then you will be able to articulate your concerns to a listening ear. So what are we doing for these small marginalized farmers? What we're doing in Albany, Georgia is working directly with international companies. I'm working with the Netherlands, and they are the #1 leaders in agri-technology for the world. Fortunately, they have been able to prioritize small rural Black communities because they understand their hand in the slave trade, and now they have benefited off the backs of my people for years. So since we're never going to get any kind of retribution, this is their way of making things right. How do we help these Black business owners mitigate the problems they've been having with getting resources such as agri-technology? Even though we're small, we still have the same problems. And if we're not addressed, then we will fade out. But trust me, big business cannot feed the entire country. Without these small farmers, we will face starvation. You see the shelves that went bare during COVID, that will be a repeat, but much worse if we don't help these small farmers stay relevant. Thank you.
He's going after that. Yeah, I got to move. I know there's a lot more to talk about. Everybody had more concerns, but I've been told we have 5 minutes. So, I know, very sad. Well, you can find us in the hallways. Yeah, I'm just stalk them. I just want to hear your final thoughts. You've heard some of what people were concerned about, and we didn't even get to the ethics part of this, that a lot of people have concerns on how do you make sure this, again, is ethical and equitable. Final thoughts in the few minutes we have left, Chike.
Maybe just three quick ones. One, AI is not, and these technologies, they're not an industry. They are in everything that we do. There are no jobs that are not technology jobs now, whether you know it or not. So keep that in mind. Number two, this is a geopolitical question. This is, as I served in the Biden administration for 2.5 years, and every conversation about AI, the first facet of that conversation was not actually the economics. It was very simply, how far ahead or behind are we of China? We heard last night that China is 4 months behind the United States in the development of AI. Not years, not decades, months, which has profound impacts for the United States. And then thirdly, which I think all of you said, we have to get as many people as possible, particularly, frankly, who reflect this room, comfortable, fluent, and make them masters of this technology. That's education, that's experience, that's work, but we can't delay. This has to be done yesterday because of the impacts it's going to have on our economy and our country and our world.
Okay, picking up on getting people comfortable. The 3 things employees said that they want their company to do when it comes to AI implementation. Number 1, define clearly what is the corporate strategy around implementing artificial intelligence. Today, employees are not sure. They don't know. Number 2, training. Employees want to be trained. They see the potential value of this tool. 51% say that they see AI as a way to create new job opportunities for themselves. 46% have already seen career progression when using AI, but they want to be trained. And number 3, tell me how I'm going to use this in my role. So great, you have the strategy. If you do, great that you've given me training. How do you expect me to use it? Only 45% of employees today, according to a recent Gallup survey, said that they know exactly what their boss expects of them. Think about that.
Okay. Well, I think maybe what I would just say, I sit here in this seat as a retirement fail. That's what I call it. So I had retired after 34 years at a company called ADP, and I came out of retirement because this work is incredibly important. And obviously, from the great words already said, skills first is the direction we're going, whether you embrace it or not. All you have to do is just pick up a newspaper, and it doesn't matter what side. This is a very bipartisan direction. But even more so now, you have talent that is hungry. We've done survey over survey asking talent, what do you need? And beyond, obviously, the education that was already spoken about, there is a fear. There is a fear that individuals won't be seen. So they need trust, they need a pathway, they need optimism, they need an evangelist, they need somebody to fight for them. So beyond work that's being done here, it needs all of you. I'm assuming you're here because this is the future of work, is how do we make sure that we're representing a voice for those that, again, haven't had a voice for decades upon decades. As I started my comments, this is about disrupting the traditional way of hiring. We're not just doing it the same old way because AI, ChatGPT, everything that we talked about is coming. So how do we prepare and support and evangelize for talent that needs advocacy to fight for them? And that's what I think we're all about. That's why this conversation is so passionate. And again, I know we didn't get to everybody, but this is important. And I think it's going to require all of us to speak louder and fight and fight, a healthy fight, in a good, productive kind of way. But I think that's the direction that we're going.
And I want to encourage everyone to go to our website. We're journalists, we're a nonprofit, we don't make any money, there's no subscription. We look at how the future of work is changing, where the job opportunities are, programs, initiatives, people who are making a difference, and making sure everybody is a part of any changes out there. Go check us out, use us as a resource. You know, I think it might be helpful. We work with a lot of groups, a lot of communities around the country, so please check it out. With that, I want to say thank you to my guests, and thank you all for being a part of it.